You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the December 23rd, 2024 special meeting of the Long Beach Town Council. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Okay, welcome everybody to the special meeting for Town Council, December 23rd. Let's please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the one nation under God, Meg, do you do a roll call?
Sure. President Joy Schmidt.
Here.
Councilmember Kendra Bartlett.
Here.
Councilmember Anita Remigis.
Here.
Chief Swistek.
Present.
Attorney Willoughby. Clerk Treasurer Meg Collins. I'm present. That concludes roll.
Thank you. I have no opening remarks. Do we have any public comments on Zoom?
The reporter on the
Larry, any public comments? Okay, having none, we'll move on to new business. First, we have public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 2024-12, amending Title 15, Chapter 151, Section 151.060, annual contractor registration fee. Well, since there's no one on Zoom,
Well, I think it would be appropriate just to open the public meeting, public hearing,
okay,
invite comments.
I will open the public hearing. Do we have anyone who wants to speak in favor of the ordinance? Anyone who would like to speak against the ordinance? I would make a motion that we pass this on first reading.
Well, let's close that public hearing.
I'll close the public hearing. Do we suspend the rules after?
No, you don't need to. That would only be if you want to unanimously. And before you do that, if I may, I just want to make sure for clarity purposes, because even after first reading, you can make additional changes. But amending the two sections or subsections that raise it from the references from $65 to $100. I just want to make sure, in the golf cart ordinance, for instance, we made it clear that there are no prorations, right? It's $100. And the way that this reads before is that as long as they pay the annual renew fee on or before December 31st, the renewal fee shall be $100. It's just $100 no matter what, right? So I would say between now and next month, if you're inclined to pass it on first reading, we should consider that language. And I do believe that the clerk's office pointed out, and I'll bring up that there might be an additional change with regard to some proof certification, right? There was a certificate. I'll bring it to your attention because you can still make those changes and amend it. But right now, yes, the crux is just those having the public hearing, which was properly notified. And then if you pass it on first reading, we'll put you in a position to consider for passage at your meeting next week. And then as soon as we publish it, will be effective, which will allow the building department to hit the ground running with the new software.
Sounds good. So I would make a motion to approve this on first reading.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Joy and then Anita. Thank you. And that's first reading, right?
Yep. Okay, House and Associates change order number 2, final for approval, water service replacement project. Anyone like to make a motion?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve that order. I need a just second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Woodruff and Sons pay request number 3 for payment approval, $191,776.60 on water services replacement project.
If I could just add a couple of comments, I apologize in the delay in getting this to the council for final payment. However, Woodruff and Sons had a change in personnel. Their original estimator is no longer with them, so therefore those calculations that were submitted to Haas for final approval, there was some delay by several months. So what is before you today is the final invoicing for the 2024 water improvement project for Lakeshore Drive has been reviewed by Haas and Associates. They concur with the numbers provided by Woodruff and Sons, and it's a recommendation to make final payment to close out that project through the water department.
I'll make a motion to approve that invoice.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Local business setbacks. Kendra, I'm gonna let you handle this one.
It came to our attention during, just recent review of ordinances and things like that, that we don't have any setbacks, for properties or zoning districts that are labeled as local business. We have them for single family Hidden Shores, single family Lakeshore Drive, regular single family. So I just want to open up discussion and see what the best way to handle this, but I do think that we should have setbacks for sure in regards to the local businesses and those properties. So I don't know if we decide, it's not up to us to decide those setbacks necessarily, or have feedback from the building commission, but
Right off the top of your head, Mary, what do you think?
Do you need to speak up here?
we're calling you, whether you want to participate or not in a public discussion.
The two business districts that we have are one across the street, and that's built as far as it can be. And then the Hacienda property. And I think it's a good idea to do that. I would say you probably want to do the same as you have everywhere else.
Yeah.
Unless you would want to increase the front setback. The side setbacks, they're pretty liberal, 10 feet for anything interior. But the front setback on the Taker's Dam property, they could be, I don't know what you do. I guess I'd have to ask Chris if you don't have any, but if you wanted to set them, just like the houses on Chassett, then that would be 30 feet. And I think that's probably prudent. I don't know what happens without them.
Well, what I would suggest is that we don't necessarily have the open debate yet until we have a plan of action, but yeah, I think that deciding something and whether it's a moratorium while you explore, so that you're not making any staff judgment and they have opportunity to, but one way or the other, I do think it's important, especially that I'm going to point you to the previous versions of the comprehensive plan, which says, look, the real intention of that is not to allow any commercial properties to expand usage. That was what's that plan at that point was to have the community focus on being a residential community. So it's important that you take some action, but it's also important that you make informed decisions too. And again, I think that a moratorium at minimum that should go on that path and give you an opportunity to put something in place, because to change the zoning requirements process, right? And while you can do some expedited hearings and those kinds of things, it's still process. You know, it's a minimum of a couple meetings for sure.
So how do we put a moratorium in?
Well, we could put something together and the only thing I need to make sure is whether, see if the building commission has any authority over that, and they may, to see if they need to convene, or whether the council, overall you have the authority over most things, but I want to make sure, because your building code's a little bit different, than make sure it's not under the purview. But either way, one of those two governing bodies should put something in place to allow you the opportunity to investigate and research and make sure. And then what that will do is keep everything status quo until you make that decision.
Can we, change the zoning altogether?
Yes, it's just process. So yes, you can, absolutely.
So would the options be change it to residential or change it to no?
Oh,
buil-
we need to rezone it all together.
Yeah.
We need to look at that and even if you do, it allows the current owner. It would allow, as long as the current usages are there, they would be, grandfathered in. So as long as that current owner and those usages, much like let's use the real estate office at stop 31, is it? Stop 30, whatever, on one road. That was grandfathered for years because it was residential, but it was used as business, and that would be the same in reverse here. As long as Hacienda and all of those things stayed as it were, that residential use would only take place if they abandoned the commercial use.
The whole area abandons the commercial use, or like if a sale were to happen and it
The
switched
sale
owners?
doesn't affect it as long as it's used, that part can be transferred because you'd essentially be taking away their market and their abilities for the purposes that it's set for now. You'd be taking out the value of that property. So let's say John Doe owns it and wants to sell it to Jane Doe, his cousin, they can do that as long as that usage stays. That won't affect, you won't be able to make Jane use it as residential. It won't stop a transfer of title. The transfer of title will not stop the commercial use. It's only when the use is available.
I'm a little confused, so. If someone buys it,
Joy, can you turn your mic on?
what,
Your mic on? Thanks.
if someone buys it, if someone buys it, can they build whatever they want on it right now because there are no,
Yes,
and even if do we have to change the whole zoning to say that it's residential?
yes. If you wanted to make it residential, you have to change the zoning class. Right now, it's under the business, whatever that zoning designation is.
What if we wanted to leave it under business, but just add some setbacks?
You can do that too. That's another way. Kendra's question was just, can we do it and this be an option to alleviate business, right? And it would, but not unless someone stopped. The other alternative is to put, it's plan A or plan B, however you want to look at it, is to just put restrictions.
Okay.
And you might want to include some things about buffers, right? And any other kinds of things you may want to look, because that's, the main thing, but you can look at this one right here too, right? It's technically business. Yeah, it's coverages to the hilt on that right here, right? Because you look gravel parking lot, it's things, but either way, you have the opportunity to do what you wish in terms of either way. One just doesn't get, like kind of as just this question, that doesn't get you the immediate result that you would like. Doesn't mean that you still don't do it, but it possibly never comes into effect, right? If it always is Hacienda for the next 100 years, then it's always Hacienda.
So in the meantime, if we were to do a moratorium until it would just be a moratorium on this property, right? It wouldn't be.
I would say it's this class in general.
Business class in general, yeah, okay, it's not all building permits, so it's
No,
withhold
just the business, which is only affects a couple properties.
Okay, okay,
I think they can put a business in there, so.
yeah, but that to me sounds like the best, even though I don't necessarily, that word kind of freaks people out, but like that, until we can get, think about this and have a building commission maybe look at it too and figure out what we want the setbacks to be or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess maybe that's how I feel. That's the
So I would think procedurally, I think they would just be in position for next Monday to have a moratorium. I'm 99% sure it's under your purview, or you're at least not restricted from doing that, so that we could put that in front of you could consider if that's the
What's next Monday?
special meeting, year-end business.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Are we gonna have attendance at that? I can't come to that.
Yes, I know Shannon was gonna be here for sure.
We can try.
Since we're getting so many.
Yeah, I know, but that's the one I wasn't sure about, because I can be the, I have a doctor's appointment, so I had to be at the doctor.
So Larry, I had a quick question. Do you know if setbacks were followed for the building across the street, or were those I mean, it's been different things. I'm just curious. Unless you went out there and measured, you wouldn't know, but from looking at it,
I don't know when that was built.
yeah.
I remember when I was a kid,
So
it wasn't here, but then it changed hands, and when I was 40 years ago, it was a liquor store in a van. And the upstairs really wasn't occupied, but, I guess, I wasn't prepared for this today. I didn't know you
No,
could
no.
talk about it. I would have done some research. Okay. I'll do some research on the business districts. Because Country Club is also, part of it. I don't know if that's a business district. I think that might be a different district in our zoning, and I'll have to look at that. But, that building was built, my recollection is before our zoning, our main zoning happened in, when the town started to regulate, more of the zoning itself, setbacks, was in 1970. So, and I have all those zonings if you want them, but, I'll just have to look. I don't know the answer to that, Anita, but I can check.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious, just when I'm looking at it.
They're buildings. They wanted to put a deck in the parking lot. And we couldn't find anything that said that they couldn't. So, I'll do some research.
Thanks, Larry.
So it'll be back on the agenda in a week.
Yeah, I'll make sure I do some research before Monday.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so this will be on the, agenda for the 30th.
Great, thank you. Discuss year-end transfer to rainy day fund.
Yes, so I just wanted to briefly discuss this today. It's been mentioned numerous times over the year, and after discussing with Trista, the general fund has a very healthy balance, and she's comfortable with up to 50,000. I think at a minimum, we should do probably 30. We could do 20 if council preferred. Again, we could do up to 50. And the balance currently in the rainy day fund is 53,971. So, if we put another 50 in there, then we have 100 in case we have to pay a claim or for some emergency. It can sit in general. Both are very flexible with the way you can use those funds. But if council wants to work on building up that rainy day fund for simply emergencies, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So,
I think we should put as much as we can in it.
well, and also if you chose, if you said 30, let's say, if people were not comfortable with 50, you could always add to it come January when this would be approved as well, if you wanted to think about it. But if you're open to 50, I can have a resolution prepared for that year-end meeting.
And you and Trista are comfortable with 50?
I think so. Looking at the projections of the general fund, 50 is not going to hurt any of our plans. And again, it's just having that good cash balance that can allow for us to do this.
Well, I make a motion to transfer $50,000 to the rainy day fund.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Okay, so I will prepare a resolution then for that year-end meeting on the 30th,
Okay,
because I don't have that prepared today. And then you guys would approve that evening.
okay.
And again, if anybody had an issue with it, it is flexible, so thanks.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Meg. Wall Constructors LLC service agreement with the town. I think everybody got, the new contract. The building commissioner, our building commissioner, Larry, his contract was set to expire in February, so we have a new amended agreement. Larry gave it a thumbs up. Don't know if anyone else has any other.
I have one question to point, or one thing to point out to you. So there is an automatic renewal provision for a period of 3 years. Given your new staggered terms, may want to consider, and I'm not sure because it was based on number of votes. So for instance, going forward, assuming you continue to be happy with Larry and retain him, and as you can glean from your review, there's a mutual termination clause in there regardless. But what is Colleen's term going forward? And the reason I ask is you may want to consider, is it 2?
She's good.
Okay, so that's, I was going to suggest that maybe you want to consider 3, but that way it never becomes an issue. And so 2 years would cover it. And then it's automatic regardless, but I wasn't sure the reasons.
So, we have a motion?
I did have a quick question, and this is also for Larry, and I know it's not part of the term limits, but I know that the hourly rate was an issue for quite a while until this contract came to fruition. I don't even know that we could talk about the hourly rate or if it's even necessary. I just thought.
You can, and I don't want to speak for Larry, but the real divider in, first of all, as you remember, Larry didn't ask for a raise. He got a raise by virtue of the process. But he did have a delineation in the numbers, meaning a higher rate if he was going to have to be forced to get his own E&O type coverage for his official acts. However, we have verified and Chief verified again under the new coverage that he is, which is all he required for that lower number. Now, that's not to say out of merit you can't discuss, and correct me if I'm wrong in there, but that rate is what was negotiated lower because he doesn't have to go out and get that.
Yes. No, but that's what happened. It was just a question of whether or not, as you guys know, people are litigious, and I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't gonna have to go out and hire Chris on my own. So, but yeah, that's fine. And the only other thing that was added, I think it's different, and Chris can back me up, was that the FEMA is now requiring certification for floodplain managers. And I'm fine doing that. I just don't know if they're gonna follow that up with something where there's more for us to do. We're pretty well locked in right now. And we don't, there's not an extraordinary amount of work that has to be done to maintain that, our floodplain or our flood insurance program. But I don't know what's coming up. That was the only reason I asked if Chris, or if you guys would consider, if they come back and say, you know, you're gonna have to do this every week and you're gonna have to do this every week, then I'd have to think about, you know, what we wanted to do.
Which is why there's that big pay provision that says if
Yeah.
there's anything that comes along during the term of this, then they will negotiate for stuff.
And that's why I think part of just sitting in on building commission meetings, you know, I mean, listening to how your job has expanded from building commissioner
Right.
and working part-time with an inspector and with honor, you see, and I listened to how much your job has increased with the floodplain and that, so, but we're okay then that if this needs to come back before council at any point or for a raise or if something increases, that you're okay with that.
And either way, you each have a termination clause so that if he felt overwhelmed or it's too much and some future version of the council decided they didn't want to, there's.
I don't think he's allowed to leave.
I agree.
I know where he lives.
Yeah, the problem is, so does Potawatomi Park at Trail Creek now.
All right, thank
I'll make
you.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement for services. with Wall Constructors LLC.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Meg, I just sent you a final version for signature.
Okay, any council comments?
Merry Christmas.
I didn't
Happy
entertain a motion to,
Hanukkah. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. Same day.
okay. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Happy holidays, everyone.